Zoomers. Welcome, Zoomers. Just give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Hi, you can hear me, great. You can hear me. I obviously can't hear you in two respects. One is you're muted, which is as it should be, unless you desperately need anything. But also, I have gone deaf in my ear, this ear here. So apologies if my volume's too high or too low. I've got no gauge on it, but let's see how it goes. Happy New Year. Let's start by sitting down on 2 blocks if you've got them. At home, if you haven't got 2 blocks, you could use books. The binding should face forwards. And a blanket, if you've got one. If you haven't got a blanket, you've got a towel. If you haven't got a towel, I don't know what's going on. You must have a towel. So here's the gap between the legs and the pelvis. The palms face up. And sense of interoception, as well as proprioception, that is to say, perceiving the space inside the body, not as a thought, but as a percept, rather than a concept, as something you perceive, and the space that the body's in as well. So that's proprioception. So interoception and proprioception together is just a state of love in the present, acceptance, non-violence, you could call it even. And there may be movement, like investigative, loving movement. You know, how you get to know the moment is to dance with it a little bit. And then it gives you this biofeedback, which is, in other words, relationship. So, of course, a great yogini or yogin could practice their yoga beautifully in one posture, because their yoga is this merging, layanam, with the interdependent field, which is the direct experience that everything is everything. Shorthand, relax, enjoy, expand. So personally, I could sit like this happily a long time, and I'm sure you feel the same. But we'll add a little extra focus in case the mind is drifting in any way. And that's simply to bring the hands to the heart position, to the namas position. And Sanskrit namas means to bow. So what are we bowing to here? You could put it 2 ways. You could say to everything, because everything is a liberator. Everything is also sometimes known in some traditions as the goddess. Liberated because when you realize everything is everything, you don't cling to anything in particular. So therefore, the goddess is a liberator. So that's one way that we can pray, as it were. And the other, of course, is to the heart itself, which is the middle. So in tantric traditions, the center is also the circumference. That is to say, and that's true before Tantra as well in South Asian soteriology. In other words, when you find the very middle, and we find this referenced in one of the earliest Upanishads, when you find the very middle of your experience, as in the heart center, and in that center, the Upanishads tell us, everything is, As a thought, of course, doesn't make any sense, but it's not supposed to be a thought, it's a yoga practice. So a percept, again. Interlace the fingers to their roots. In that way, we're deepening the focus further. We're sort of binding and weaving our attention to that point. We sometimes use the word bindu for a point in Tantra, not in Hatha Yoga, but in Tantra. Stretch the arms diagonally down. Take deep breaths. Relax the buttocks, relax the legs, relax the mind. Raise up, but don't tense up. Raise the arms up, but don't tense up. So as the arms go up, tummy goes in, the lower back enjoys the moment. So enjoyment here, the Sanskrit word bhoga, B-H-O-G-A, means love and surrender in the present to the dance that expresses karana, this expression that expresses from the experience of the middle, the absolute center, because the middle is non-dual, it's between left and right, good and bad, you and me, here and there, right and wrong, etc. So it's non-dual, it hasn't alighted on anything in particular, therefore it's everything all together. That negates clinging to anything in particular as mine, and that means the mind falls back into its true nature. There you go, whole path of yoga in a sentence. A big wide circle to release, palms face up in this receiving mudra, jnana mudra. So your hands are a bit like satellite dishes, receiving. And the breath flows because we're in an experience of trust. Trust. So that's yoga, the whole path of yoga, and then it's just a question of trusting that fully, resting in that fully. And from that place, spontaneous wisdom, spontaneous action, and the desire to act on spontaneous wisdom and expresses itself. Okay, wiggle the fingers if you want. Change across the legs. Bring the other leg in front. Put your blanket or towel back in. Do make sure there's a gap between the legs and the pelvis, and the buttocks drawn out and back. Palms face up. Chest is really lifted. Of course, lifting the chest lifts the ribs, lifts the soft tissue of the lower back. So muscle areas like the quadratus lumborum. And stretching that tissue allows blood to flow. In yoga, we understand what happens on one plane happens on all planes. So in other words, if there's more freedom for the blood to flow, then the mind will also enter into a state of flow as well. Flow is the same as non-clinging. Non-clinging is the same as recognizing the goddess, which is all things are all things. Seeing that all things are all things is the same as non-clinging. And non-clinging means, that the changing, ever-changing, interdependent field is allowed to be the way it is, and the mind stays in its inherent peace. So deep breaths naturally come because we're relaxed, we're investigatively exploring. That is to say, we might be ranging left, right, forwards, backwards. If that feels lovely, if that feels lovely. So it feels lovely because it's investigative. There's no external pressure to conform to this or that. Wiggle the fingers, bring the hands to the heart center. If you want, rub them together too. That can bring some extra energy. You can turn the rubbing to jostling, so the energy is kept alive. And you can imagine that the jostling pours energy out of the heels of your hands directly into the heart center, which is an aid to concentration. If you learn about the tantric traditions of South Asia, you'll know that a big part of the tantric traditions are aids to concentration, particularly mantra, but also visualization. So visualizing energy pouring into the heart, and then you can feel the heart as a sort of vibrant field that helps attention to stay on that area or in that area. And you just keep concentrating on the middle of the middle of the middle. to the center, until you feel into it, and the mind then becomes still. Yogascitta vritti nirodha. In other words, the mind is no longer clinging. Interlace your fingers to their roots. Stretch the arms diagonally. Raise them up. Parvattanasana. Parvattana is the name of a mountain. So this is sometimes known as another way of saying mountain pose, but it's a particular mountain. And breathe, of course. And so the breath is reflecting, flow. Remember what happens on one plane of experience. In yoga, we understand and see, we perceive. Happens on all planes. So if the upper fibers of the trapezius into the neck are not tense, then blood and lymph can flow easily. The nerves are not impaired. So energetic communication between the central nervous system and the muscular system is not impaired. Everything flows. Flow of one is flow of all. And flow is non-clinging. That's, in some traditions, goddess worship. Not everyone wants to get into goddess worship vibes. It doesn't suit everyone. So the same thing is also falling into the center, non-duality, pure potential. There's thousands of ways of putting it. Big wide circle. Hands again resting like radio telescopes, satellite dishes. In this Jnana Mudra. Jnana means to know. What is it we're knowing? The field, the interdependent field. How do we know it? Through relaxed attention. In the Pali Buddhist tradition, Sati Sappajana. So breath flowing, mind totally at peace, totally relaxed, nothing to cling to or push away from. Again, wiggle the fingers if you want. And we'll come into a different asana, as they're called these days. That is Virasana. So we're going to fold the legs back so the inner ankles are a little bit wider than the outer hips. Excuse me. Butterfly is drawn out and back. You can. I'm sitting on 2 blocks. You could sit on 3. You could have or 4. Probably after 4, it's probably getting a bit wobbly, but 4 is probably good for some. Chest is lifted. Scan the body, even if there's areas of discomfort. That doesn't mean necessarily that there's something wrong or that can't be changed. It could be an area of clinging that's been exposed. So notice any correlation between tension in the body and tension in the breath. Remember, what happens to one thing happens to all things in the sort of negative, as in you're clinging in the breath, you're clinging in the body. And there's in the positive, you let go of tension in the body, you let go of tension in the breath. Interlace the fingers, stretch the arms diagonally down, rest the thumbs on the thighs. So you've got an opportunity to breathe, to relax, to give. Relaxing the buttocks, relaxing the inside of the knees, the ankles, etc. Raise the arms up when ready. Watch out for that trapezius, upper fibers of the trapezius, what are known as the descending fibers. Make sure they stay flowing. And remember, if it's difficult to tune in on flow, know that it's something that happens in the breath as well. If you can't tune in on physical flow, be aware of the physical area that you want to flow and let your breath flow. And that will do the job. Or, let the mind flow. And that will let the breath flow. Letting the mind flow means that you're not presuming what the future might be, while clinging on to very particularized, biased replays of the past, which are inaccurate. So letting go is wisdom. It's not just a nice way of having a nice day, which it also is, but it's the highest form of wisdom, because when you let go, then reality can arise as it is in consciousness. Okay, big wide circle, hands to heart this time. 5 deep breaths with the jaw soft, brain soft, with the throat soft. Buttocks releasing because of the sense of relaxation. And that sense of relaxation coming out of the fact that knowledge comes out of letting go rather than out of clinging. Okay, release your hands. And we'll come out of Virasana and into what might be our first Adho Mukha Svanasana of 2023. I don't know. Could be. It's not my first, but it might be yours. I don't know. Anyway, everyone is the first. Come up when you're ready. So really pressing the palms into a deeper weave with your mat, if you have a mat. When I was away recently in Indonesia, didn't take a mat. Worked out fine. It worked out fine. Wooden floors, that kind of thing. So breathe into it. Make sure the palms are level, equidistant from the front and the sides of the mat. So a little look up might help. Don't let the shoulders drift forwards. So push the energy through the wrists, through the elbows, through the shoulders, through the side ribs, to the hips and beyond. In Adho Mukha Svanasana, the heels go back, not so much down, but back. The inner groins open. It's a lovely feeling, actually. But you have to tune in on that. So heels back might be something you kind of do on one foot and then release and then do again. Visualize things like the inner groins open. Great. Okay. Come forwards to hands and knees position, quite slowly. Catch a breath. Wag your tail if you want, in a way that intimates looseness. Soft jaw, soft eyes, soft brain. Suchirandrasana. So you're going to take the arm, especially if you're in the Mataka, in the room here with me live, as it were, but at home, you might have your camera set up the same way. You're going to take the arm furthest away from me, or either arm if it's the same. Palm up, head down, other arm extends out to fingertips. This is Suchirandrasana. Breath comes and goes. Eyes reflect sense of sukha, which means easefulness. And of course, sukha doesn't mean that everything's perfect. You know, you can experience sukha in any state, with any conditions, because it just means a sense of ease, which comes from a sense of trust, and that comes from a sense of understanding that whatever's going on is not yourself. Right? It's part of a field that includes everything. It's just a dance. The field is sometimes seen as a goddess, and that goddess is often viewed as a dancer. Okay, arm back, push down, come up. Hands and knees and wag your tail if you want. Take deep breaths, I would recommend. Other direction, same thing, but the other arm goes underneath, so away from me this time. Feet underneath, palm up. And breathing, the other arm extends out to fingertips. Breath should be honest. Jaw should be soft. Coming up nice and easy, pushing down, retracting the arms, so you can push down and come back up, and you're back on hands and knees. Again, you can wag the tail if you want. Taking a few deep breaths. Walk your knees closer to your wrists, turn your hands the other way around. And of course, yoga is meditation. Even Apple, on Apple devices, the emoji for yoga is somebody in a meditation position. They're not in a headstand, they're not in a handstand, they're not in splits. They're meditating. So meditation doesn't, there are different ways to meditate. You can use your body as a way to enter into the field, to experience, to perceive the field. And in so doing, letting go it's just natural. So here we're moving to feel the stretch of the wrists, which exposes areas of gripping, grasping, grabbing, which can then be released through the breath. And you might do that by ranging around, opening up to receive, relaxing, in other words, the sensation of the circumference of the wrists. Okay, tuck the toes under, turn your hands the right way around, and to whatever extent is comfortable for you, push back to stretch the plantar fascia. And so it might be a little bit like I've done here. Some people are comfortable to sit all the way up. Comfortable perhaps is a strong word, but okay, can do it. Couple more breaths, even if it's uncomfortable, breathe into it. I've only met one person who I've exempted from this particular position, and that's because she has metal plates in her feet, which can't bend. So, okay, come forward and then up to a squatting position. So the heels are up and perhaps your fingertips are on the floor to assist with your balance. And you can feel the calcaneus tendons, calf muscles to heels. And hopefully your breath is relaxed because you're enjoying 2023. The distant future is here. Then we're going to come up further so that our heels can come down. Right? Perhaps you can still touch the floor with your fingertips. Some people get, quite understandably, the urge to bounce their bums. And that can help to loosen the lower back. So you can jostle the pelvis up and down to loosen if it's part of the attunement, tuning into the field. And then raise your arms up behind you as if you're skiing really fast downhill. And again, there may be bumps that you add. And then raise the arms up fully. Keep bent at the knees, the ankles, the hips. We're not trying to be upright relative to the floor. We're not trying to be perpendicular relative to the floor. But more that the body is perpendicular relative to the thighs, which means the body has to lean forward. And then, flow. So breathe, move your arms if you want. I sometimes like to turn the heels of my hands the other way. And then stand up all the way. Take a big circle, hands to the heart. Breathe through your nose. Some deep breaths in Tadasana Namaskara. Tadasana Namaskara. Jaw soft, eyes soft, brain soft. Lift the heel of whichever foot. Yeah, gone all liberal so early in the year. Whichever foot. And then release your hands, reach down, see if you can hold the big toe of that foot. If you can't, it's fine to hold the shin and you breathe into it. So you take deep breaths. And you can either relax and enjoy, or you can tense up and worry, and either one's fine. Doesn't matter, you choose. Sometimes we're like, oh, tense up and worry. That's my thing. That's allowed. Or relax and enjoy. That's allowed. Doesn't actually matter from a yoga point of view, as long as you know. Now, let's bring the leg up and out. So still stays bent, but turns up and out. And breathing into it. Okay. And then up and forwards again. And then down. And then loosen up. And take deep breaths. and relax. So it's quite auspicious. I didn't know today we were going to have Vajrasattva on the shrine, but just suffice to say at the moment that Vajrasattva is an enormously auspicious bodhisattva. You can see that he's made of white light, white plaster, but it's actually supposed to be white light. This is purification. Anyway, I just mentioned Vajrasattva. More on him perhaps later. Raise up the other heel. Breathe easy. Breathe easy. So Vajrasattva is an Adi Buddha. That is to say, so Adi can mean like first or primordial or original even. So he's like the center of the center of the center. Okay, when ready, reach down, hold the big toe, other hand on the hip, breathing through your nose. Again, you can choose whatever you like in terms of the mood, like, you know, whatever. All that really matters is awareness in this context. So whether, you know, it doesn't matter whether whether one is worried and tense but what matters is that one is recognizing that. It's totally fine either way. It's all part of the field. Pull the leg up and out. Still breathing through the nose. Good job, everyone. Up and forwards and down. And wiggle if you wanna. Okay, so just loosen, loosen, loosen. Then we're going to step the feet generously apart with the hands on the hips. A lifted open chest. A lifted open chest. See what you can do for your feet in terms of the balance. What happens to most, but perhaps not everybody, is that the little toe side of the foot tends to kind of get curled under. So what can we do through repetition, patience, and humor to open the feet up? The clue is calmness, conditions, connection. So if you want to connect to the body, there you go, calmness, conditions, connection. Abhyasa vairagyabhyam is another clue in Sanskrit. Well, I'm not even going to translate it, just to be cheeky. But sometimes the Sanskrit itself just makes an impression. Back toes in, front foot and leg out on the ball of the foot, turn and finish off the turn on the heel. So mostly on the ball, finishes off on the heel. Check that that's giving you what it should give you, heel to arch alignment, not heel to heel. If it's heel to heel, just change it now. So it should be heel to arch, not heel to heel. Stretch through both sides of the body as you bend your knee. And you can play with that to loosen up the tissues. They do thank us for play. They don't like to just be told what to do. They want to be loosened up, of course. Elbow down, palm up. Breathe through your nose. Optionally raise your top arm. Optionally raise it up and over. Optionally look up. So you don't have to do any of those, or you can do some of them, but not all of them. But what I would say is not optional is that we should breathe into it. That's something we should all be doing here and now. So taking deeper breaths, more expressive, more natural. And what happens to the breath will have to happen to the body. So the breath is flowing. The body will also start to flow, to express, you could say. Arm down, palm down, push into the leg, inhale, come up. Hands on the hips, feet forward. Deep breaths, expressive breaths. So really let them happen. Hopefully that posture has just begun to stir the pot a little bit. 2023, we're going to stir the pot gently and we'll gradually stir it more dynamically, Back toes in, front foot and leg out on the ball of the foot first. Finish off the turn on the heel. There's heel to arch alignment. Check, double check. Breathe expressively. Stretch the arms. Stretch between the hips. Inhale. Exhale. Stretch in two directions. And elbow down. Optionally arm up. Optionally arm up and over. Optionally looking up. Pajva Konasana. Pajva is side, Kona is angle. Same as the English word corner, Kona, corner. And asana in texts pertaining to Hatha Yoga came to mean posture after the 11th century. Deep breaths, playfulness, enjoyment. Start the year as you mean to carry on. Set the tone for the rest of the year, like playful, open, investigative, trusting. Okay, arm down, palm down, push into the leg. Use your inhale to come up. Hands on the hips, feet face forwards. Deep, natural breaths. Through repetition, align and realign the feet. So never give up on a good thing. Yeah, I hope that's an earworm now for the rest of the day. So you can just, through repetition, you can do that again and again and again. And it is a good thing to adjust and readjust your toes, even if you think, oh, I've tried gym, I've done it for like last year, and this is my 33rd year of adjusting my little toes. And I'm not giving up. Stretch the arms, lift up. And tummy lightly toned so you feel buoyancy on the pelvic floor. Breathing through the nose. We're going to turn the whole body that away, back toes in, front foot and leg out. Walk the front foot further across the width of the mat so you can square up. Right, so square up ahead of you. Lift the back heel, externally rotated again. Turn it out so you can turn the thigh in. And then bring the heel down again. So you're doing everything you can to turn the body round. We really should make sure our stride is wide enough across the width of the mat. That can impair our ability to square up otherwise. Inhale, lift up from the inner groin back leg. Exhale, bend your front knee. Focusing on the inner groin back leg with deep breaths. The inner groin of the back leg. Focusing means tuning in rather than the expectation to immediately know something. Like with a person, you have to tune in to another being and they need to tune into you, when you meet, even if you know them well, that what they are, how they are now. You are as you are now. So tune in through movement on the inner groin back leg. There's also an upward movement from the underneath the thigh of the bent leg, an upward movement, like energy we're drawing up. It's not something mechanical. It's like something you visualize and feel. Inhale, come on up on the inhale. Turn back to the front, big circle with your arms, hands on your hips. Deep breaths, plural. Those little toes again. It's fun to do because it keeps intimating the necessary lightness. From the hip joints, rather than the top of the pelvis, from the hip joints, which is lower than when, if I said put your hands on your hips, you put them on the top of the pelvis, hip joints are lower. From there, raise the arms up. Make sure the descending fibers of the trapezius are flowing, as is everything else. Back toes in, front foot and leg out, whole body's turning the other way. Remember to walk the front foot further across the width of the mat, you got it. Remember to lift the back heel, externally rotate it, and then descend it again. The tummy is reiteratively toned, right? Like I've compared in the past to a sort of combing visualization or brushing, like you're combing or brushing hair, and some people's hair, if you comb and brush it, I know that's not the case for everyone, then the fibers start agreeing in some people's hair. Inhale, raise up from the inner groin. Exhale, bend your front knee. Play. So this is lovely word in Sanskrit, lila, and in Vajrasati Yoga, we sometimes use this guiding principle of lila, play, artha, which is the purpose of the play, which is absorption into the field, lakshana, affirming signs that you have indeed entered into the field. Right? So lila is the play, artha is the reason we play, so that conditions, the way we play. Lakshana is signs like the breath opening up, like the eyes softening, like spontaneity or intuition arising, and doubt decreasing exponentially. Inhale. What a pose. I love that pose. Come on up. Big circle, hands to hips. Deep breaths. We are going to forward fold next for Prasvita Padottanasana. So if you know you need blocks for your hands, walk your feet in closer now and get those blocks while I'm making this opportunity with this little chit chat, which is still carrying on, so you can still get blocks now about blocks. What we mustn't do at any point in these forward folds is close any part of the front body from the pelvis up. This all stays as it is now, completely open. So in other words, the only movement comes from the hip joints. So that's why we might need blocks to keep this openness so that the goddess channel stays spacious. Toes turn in a little bit. Those little toes, right, which I've compared to Piglet from Winnie the Pooh many times. Some of you have heard me do that. Because they don't respond well. They're nervous, timid. They don't respond well to forcefulness or lack of patience. That you've got to be patient and kind. And then over time, the little toes gradually feel safe to come out, as it were. So that's repetition. The play on the feet could take up the whole of our practice very constructively. For example, getting the weight to press right through the middle of the heel flesh. Heel flesh is water containing fatty tissue. So to feel the bone pressing through the dead center of that fatty tissue is something that we could use as our meditation. It's a beautiful thing to do. Feeling an equal space in the metatarsals, the long bones of the feet, is another meditation. You could go on. So stay with the feet, but also lift up from the inner groins to the chest. Inhale, lift. Exhale, fold over the top of the front thighs, hinge from the hip joints, fingertips on the floor or blocks. For some people, maybe you just got real short legs. But some people, they come lower and they keep that openness. Well, that's fine. If the body comes lower, that's fine. But it's very easy to get confused in yoga and think, well, the more flexible I am, the better at yoga I am. It's just not the case. And just a little bit of logical reflection would make that very clear to us all. If flexibility made you a great yogi, then 6-month-old babies are the best yogis, as they're just all spongy and flexible. So that's not it, is it? If strength was what makes you a yogi, then young Arnold Schwarzenegger would be the best yogi, and clearly isn't a yogi in Terminator movies. It's nothing like a yogi, is it? So what makes you a yogi? Absorption in the field. And what allows us to be absorbed in the field is flow. So we keep the central channel open. On a more mundane level, that means there's no compression on the anterior discs, which could cause pressure outwardly and backwardly for those discs to the nerves. Perhaps most usefully of all, the breath is a mirror. If it flows, then everything's flowing. And that flow will express itself as it expresses itself. We're not conforming to sort of moving exactly like our colleagues in the class, like our teacher, or, movement is expressive. Okay, back to fingertips. Get as high as you can on your blocks if you're using blocks or fingertips. And then inhaling, drawing down from the sitting bones to the heels, coming up. Slow and easy. Walk your feet towards each other. Have a little kick out, a little shake out of any kind. Now you might need a belt because we're going to clasp one hand behind the back like that with the other. You might need to remove a hoodie if a hood gets in the way like mine is. The clasping, and you can bridge the gap between the hands with a belt or a sock, but use the other sock for the other side. That doesn't matter which way you've done first. And then keep your head up. So keep your head up. That is to say, in energetic alignment with the rest of the central channel. And of course, the central channel, like the heart at the beginning of the class, represents the middle, a visceral correlate to the philosophical standpoint of centering, being in the middle. So feel that middle column, that central axis, which is immediately anterior to the spinal column, all the way through its length, including the neck. And imagine it even continuing beyond the bones through the center of the skull and so on. Movement of the body is absolutely permissible if it's lovely for you here and now. So again, we want to set the year up as we want it to carry on. So this sense of, it's like positive dissociation from particulars allows us to become associated with all. In other words, the heart becomes bigger. So sometimes words like disassociation or non-attachment can sound a bit sociopathic. That's obviously not what's meant. It just means that I'm not this more than that. Huh? I'm this and that and everything in between, if I'm anything at all. Simply because of the interdependence of things. Okay, release. Any kind of wiggling, shimmying, loosening that suits you, just as long as it feels loose. And when you're ready, same thing the other side. Other arm up, the back, the other arm down to meet it, directly or indirectly, via a belt or a sock or whatever. And then breathe. So let's take at least five deep, surrendered breaths. So if everything is everything, the mind cannot become kaivalyam, not particularly attached to this more than that, without the body being also given to the flow. Okay, super, well done. Release slow and calm. Wiggle the fingers, stretch the arms, whatever's comfortable. I'm going to move this microphone. You'll see why. We're going to stretch the arms out. You're hugging it free. Bring the right arm over the top of the left, maybe more than once, twice, 3 times, whatever. And then a full wrap round takes lots of little movements. If you think in terms of sort of right and wrong, good and bad, then you'll do one movement and think, well, that I'm stiff or I'm flexible or whatever. Lots of little movements. Lots of little movements. Makes a huge difference. Breathing through the nose if you can. Feet close together. Bend the knees and ankles and hips. And now pulsing the poses. The option to bring the opposite leg to the top arm up and over the other, and back and around. If that's tricky, you don't have to do that. You can just keep both legs bent and then further along. Good job. Slow and easy, calm and relaxed. Coming up, and then release the arms. And then take 3 or 4 deep breaths and move in any way. It's just, natural, easy. But the breath is really the foundation to it all. Yeah. If you're happy and you know it and you really want to show it, do whatever you like. Stretch the arms, comb at the frog, movements, whatever you like. Just keep it loose. And then when you feel loose enough, same thing but the other way. The other arm crosses over the top. More than once. So that's, quite an open-ended number, isn't it? More than once. Finally, the full wrap. Even that, sorry about using that terminology. Then we begin the journey of lots of micro movements. And breath, and movement, part of the breath. Expressive, natural, investigative, loving, deeply loving. Because deeply loving is giving, when we're given to the field, and give to the field, she negates clinging. Because you can't, I can't, we can't. Because if you negate clinging, you're clinging to not clinging. She can negate clinging for you. Giving to her the field. Bend ankles and hips, wish. And if you wish, top leg, remember it's the opposite one to the top arm comes up, maybe down, doesn't have to go down. Some people are comfortable to hook the toes, well, that's fine if you want. It's optional. Release slow, calm, natural, legs first, arms second, and again, a little freedom of movement. Now, we're going to come into Parsvottanasana, for which you can either just bring your arms and hold your elbows, which is a really good option, or bring your hands into Paschimma Namaskara, which is this action, and I use the little finger side of my hand against the spinous processes to work round the chest muscles. So either way is fine. And then step your feet apart. Breathe through your nose. Jaw soft. Left toes in, right foot and leg out. Whole body turns to the right. Good Lord, what an amazing sunrise I've just seen. Don't forget to walk your front foot, as we did earlier, across the width of the mat. Lift the back heel externally, rotate it. That is, turn it out to turn the thigh in, and then bring it down again. Inhale from the inner groin of the back leg, deep inhale. Exhale, extend forwards, hinging from the hip joint. Doesn't matter how low you go, but do keep open anteriorly. Jaw soft. Back of the leg towards the front of the leg, on the front leg, back of the leg. So that's a subtle thing, not on off like a light switch, but an investigative instruction. Inhale to come up, lead with the bottom of the breastbone, turning all the way around for the second side. Walking the front foot further across the width of the mat, lifting the back heel, turning it out, bringing it down again. Breathing deeply through the nose Lift up from the inner groin of the back leg on the inhalation. Exhale. Hinge from the hip joints. Back leg feels like it's escaping back behind you. Jaw is peaceful. Lean with the bottom of the breastbone coming up calmly. Turning back to the front, walk the feet slowly towards each other. Release the arms. Stand in a hip width Tadasana. But I sometimes use the expression Kayotsaga to describe, taking it from Jainism, where you often find the founders of Jainism or the enlightened masters of Jainism, the Tirthankaras, represented standing like this, which is sometimes called Kayotsaga. The shoulders, collarbones wide, pelvic floor toned, breathing through the nose. Just a couple of breaths or so, finding the pelvic floor. Okay, releasing. We're going to come to our final seated posture. That is Siddhasana for those whom it's comfortable for. Now I'm going to sit on a brick block. You can sit on regular yoga blocks, have them short and forwards, or whatever you've got. Not everyone's comfortable in Siddhasana. It's heels aligned with each other in the midline of the body. If you're not comfortable with it, please absolutely sit in any comfortable position. Your spine should be upright. So sitting in a chair, using a blanket under your shins. The important part is your spine should be able to be upright, and you shouldn't feel tense, unless you want to. Shoulders down is just stopping, pulling them up. Chest up. Shoulder blades just sort of melt down the back. Hands at the heart. And as a way of planting this for the rest of the year, we're going to chant one of the most important bija mantras for the heart, which is Hum. Okay. So what you do is you place it nyasa, the Sanskrit word nyasa. Most people have heard of vinyasa, and that's just another way of saying nyasa, prefixing it with V. Placement. So we'll do it together 3 times. Om. Inhale deeply. Om. 2 more. Deep, deep, deep. Om. The last one, the deepest one of all. At the end of that, take a deep breath in with a deep breath out, like a sigh. And let go of any last tension in the buttocks. And for a couple of minutes only, because I tried to be on time with this, so you can do whatever you need to do in the mornings. We're going to lay down for literally a couple of minutes, but it will be long enough. Flat on the back. Obviously, put a blanket down over, or a blanket over the top of you if you need it. Palms will face up. Once the posture is right, everything follows very easily, very naturally. So the posture just needs to be spacious. Surrender the full weight of your arms, surrender the full weight of the legs, surrender the full weight of the head, surrender the full weight of the pelvis. Surrender the full weight of the rib cage. Surrender the full weight of the whole body. And notice the correlation between release and expansion. If you've got longer at home, then by all means, lay longer. Otherwise, we're going to wiggle the toes and the fingers a little to feel into the body, like it was something new. Starting the year as we mean to carry on with an open mind, fresh. And when ready, we'll stretch into the body and then bend the legs. After which we'll roll onto our side, facing away from the shrine side of the room. Knees drawn up. And then towards the shrine side of the room. Coming up from the side in your own time. The merit gained in our acting thus go to the alleviation of the suffering of all beings. Om. Thanks, guys. Lovely to see you. Thanks at home. Be happy and well, and I'll see you really soon. Hope my volume was okay. My blocked ear. Love ya. Thanks for coming. See you really soon. Bye for now. Ciao. Thank you.